Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Green Room Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Colin Mitchell. And Colin, today we are joined by our good friend JD Davis. JD, how are you doing today?
Good, man. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Good.
Colin's got like 3 Red Bulls next to him. He's just gonna be
2.
chugging
I
throughout.
wish I had 3. Yeah, I have trouble sleep. Wow, I have trouble sleeping. It's no secret to Bruni, but I got like 3 hours of sleep last night. I went to bed at like 6:45.
Yeah, I worry about him. I worry
We're
about him.
grinding out here. But yeah, I do got 2. This one's almost gone, and I got this one. So
Yeah, 3 was a hyperbole. Cheers. Yeah,
3. Yeah, cheers. There you go. 3 is a hyperbole. I don't know. It might not be a hyperbole. I might have to go get one. So
you
we'll
might have to
see.
go get a third.
Yeah,
we'll see. JD, do you have any pets?
I have 2 dogs, 8 chickens, and like 75 cows.
75 cows.
Colin's trying to get on that level.
No,
I
don't.
don't want cows.
I told my
My
wife.
family's owned cows before. I don't want cows.
No, it's very tempting to get rid of all the animals and move to somewhere and have like 0 animals. Is kind of the goal. That's like where I'm trying to get to.
Is that so? Are all those animals where you are right now, or do you have like a separate farm?
No. Where I'm at right now is my house. We've got 77 acres here. We keep most of the cows here, and then I've got a lease place up the road that's about 60 acres that the other portion of the cows are there. So
Dang.
That's great. Colin, would you get chickens?
Norman wants chickens so bad. I don't think you should understand. So we're gonna do a tangent before we even get to anything.
That's all right.
So my whole family is like farmers in Michigan. They do whatever. They all retired now, but I grew up like cleaning barns and stuff like that. And my fiance Norma, JD, was like, I want some chickens. They're just so cute. And I'm like, you gonna take care of the chickens? She goes, yeah. I was like, you think it's just like watching them? You have to clean them. It's not just you just have some chickens. Like you don't just got chickens and you got eggs. There's some stuff you got to do. I could not.
So mine kind of free range, but I mean, I put them up every night, obviously. But the hardest part about the chickens is just like keeping other animals from eating them. Like as long as you can, I mean, they're pretty self-sufficient, but yeah, you leave the gate open one night, like coyotes can come and like wreak havoc.
This is a suburban house and with a normal sized backyard, and we have dogs that would just threaten the chickens themselves. And I don't want to get,
just get the gun, Colin. Get the gun. Get the gun.
Maya.
Maya's gonna be the one killing the chickens. That's cool.
You're not sleeping anyways. You might as well get out in the backyard with the gun and just.
Yeah, I'll just be the guard dog myself. I'll just stand out there. That's crazy. Yeah, so I don't know if whenever we move again, if she'll want chickens, but I was like, we're not doing chickens.
Excited. All right. Keep us updated on the chicken count.
It'll be years in the making, so okay. I will
keep
you updated.
Keep us updated. All right. North Texas football. JD obviously covers it. At North Texas Eagle on Twitter. Started a Patreon account where he drops loads of exclusive content. So check all that out for all your North Texas insider information. JD, there's a lot of places we could start here with this offseason, but the last 2 podcasts we've talked about the quarterback hunt and finding a quarterback and going through the process of replacing Chandler Rogers. Then Stone Earl comes back and we're like, hold on, is it just going to be Stone Earl? Like we didn't know what was happening, but it seems like just in a general sense that they have been aggressive. They've been bringing quarterbacks on campus. They're looking to still take some swings at Division I transfers. Just where do you think that they're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely the goal all along was to bring in another, arm at least for spring ball. Just because with this offense, they're throwing as many passes they are. You need as many arms as you can. But yeah, I definitely think that their goal was to bring in a veteran transfer guy that has taken some snaps at the FBS level to compete for the job. Stone won it last year, so I mean, obviously there's some faith there in Stone to begin with, but kicked off this week. I know a lot of fans were freaking out, but we've mentioned before, it was like January 10th last year before Chandler Rogers committed to us. So I mean, there's still time. I mean, we're getting pretty close to enrollment for spring. So I mean, it's getting pretty close to the finish line. But they started off this week, having TCU transfer Chandler Morris um, on a visit. They've got Chuba Purdy, Nebraska, former 4-star guy, started out at Florida State. He's coming in on a visit. So we're kind of seeing, narrowing down to a couple names, that they're hoping to get signed. But I definitely think that they're going to bring in another arm. They've just for practice purposes, just for having somebody else to throw balls in practice. But yeah, I think any of those guys. There's another guy that we'll be announcing hopefully on the Patreon later in the week. But yeah, hopefully get at least one, maybe two. I interviewed Morris the other day, and Chandler Morris, and he's not going to be here till summer. He's staying at TCU. He's graduating in May. So, I mean, there's a chance that, you could bring in a Chuba for spring, and then still, if one of those guys, Stone or Chuba, doesn't, dominate, steal the job, you can still bring in Chandler Morris in for summertime.
Interesting. With Stone coming back, obviously, there's no guarantee that we get any of these other quarterbacks that you mentioned. Is there just a belief that regardless of who's at QB, that Eric Morris is just going to make them that guy? or do you think that it would be a concern if you don't get one of these higher profile recruits and you have to resort to something, like whether that's someone coming up from an FCS level or not as high profile in the FBS level?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, Stone obviously flashed in fall. I mean, he won the job. It wasn't a Chandler. We've talked about it, to nauseum, but I think there's some confidence there. I think that what I've put out hope in is this scheme. I mean, we've seen it from, Incarnate Word, Washington State, all the way here. I mean, he's used multiple quarterbacks, and the systems continue to work. I think I have faith in Stone. I think Stone's a better quarterback than we saw, versus Cal. We saw versus FIU. I think that, personally, I would love to see us bring in a guy like Chuba to compete, at least to. But I mean, also, I'm not going to throw Cash, completely out the window, because Morris has started 2 freshman quarterbacks prior. Yeah. So I mean, that's not completely out of the window. And Cash being a guy that's going to be on campus here in a week, he's going to be able to go through spring ball. So yes, I mean, the ideal thing would be for him to be able to redshirt, sit out a year, learn the offense. But that's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, it is. We've talked about it before. I love Eric Morris's the way he can kind of scheme up things, and Rodgers and Macklin, all them deserve a lot of credit for executing, but it felt like he was always like a step ahead of defenses, and they was able to scheme up things, especially first drive of the game. Those scripted drives. I thought he was excellent in those, and so I have faith in. If it is like Stone Earl, or if it is, Cash McCollum or whoever else, I have faith that he's at least able to get you like easy yards in certain instances. In a way that I wasn't comfortable with, like Latrell in that way. Harrell, maybe I was comfortable, but Morris to me is that guy that can get you those easy yards and get you in rhythm as a quarterback to maybe put you in the best position to be successful.
Yeah, and I'm not wanting to throw shade on any of those guys either, but I have made the point. I mean, me and Sonoy, we talked about it the other day, that you look at what those guys, I mean, you look at what Macklin did the year before. I mean, 400 yards receiving to what he did this year. I mean, yes, the player got better, but you got to give some of that credit to the scheme. I mean, and I had a post a while back about, PFF grades. I know some people, take it with a grain of salt, but, a lot of those guys that hit the portal, they made huge jumps between, the year before and then when Morris got on campus. So I think you got to give some credit there. I mean, you look at a guy like Ethan Miner, who was one of the worst centers in the portal last year, and then comes to North Texas and ends up being one of the best graded centers in all of college football last year. So I definitely think, like I said, you got to give the scheme some credit. And that's what gives me hope, moving forward, that I think if, a team like North Texas can figure out a way to replace a Chandler Rogers, replace a Macklin, replace Ayo, it's going to benefit the program moving forward in a big way.
Yeah. There's just so much, I don't want to say turmoil, but like turmoil, I guess, within college football, in the sense of the waivers, then it's the waivers don't count anymore, and then everybody transferring. I think at some point in the coming years we'll get some sort of clarity in how everything operates. So it's just kind of navigating this time right now. But speaking of the transfers, we'll start with the departures first. Obviously, we've talked about all of the departures, everybody that left. Was there anyone that really surprised you though? Because I don't know, like Rogers and Macklin didn't shock me, I guess. Was there anyone that shocked you that they left? And then we can run through the list if you want a refresher.
No, 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 no. I mean, I think that I would say probably the two that I'm going to say Rogers was a little bit of shock to me, just because I felt like within the staff, within the department, there was some confidence that he was coming back. I mean, I think that the NIL group was working, overtime to make sure he was compensated. And it was kind of, the timing of it was a shock. I always felt in the back of my mind like it was going to be a chore to get to next August without him hitting the portal, at least testing the waters. But yeah, I mean, he was a shock. And then I would say Minor, just because, and like I said, not throwing shade, but Minor struggled at Arkansas State. I mean, we talked to Arkansas State fans when he, or, the guys that cover the team when he came here, and, they were like, they weren't ecstatic with it, with his play there. And the type of season he had, I was shocked to see, especially going to a Power 5 where, pretty much going there to be a depth guy. Probably the third guy, AO. I mean, just because he was a great story, walking on from a D2. But he just felt like a guy to me. But, the last press conference, I think we all saw it, that out of the three, Macklin, him, and Rogers, he was the one to me that felt like he was already out the door. But still kind of interesting. I haven't seen anything about where he's going to land. So,
yeah, we haven't heard anything on that, have we?
No.
Unless I don't think he's committed anywhere. We just missed it, right?
No, and then like that, they did the little transfer portal report, did the who was interested in him, but didn't report any offers. So
yeah,
maybe a guy that has to walk on a third time.
That's weird.
That'd be crazy.
Well, and I mean, North Texas already took 2 running backs out of the portal.
Yeah,
So it's not
yeah. And that's a position that we can talk about later. But that's a position to me that I think we potentially could be upgraded at. I mean, you bring in a 4-star and then Zach Evans from Minnesota, who I was really high on out of high school. Yeah. I mean, 2 stud guys they're
going to be fine at running back. Trey Bradford, I talked about last podcast. I think he's got some pop to him still. First play against Florida State for LSU goes 60 yards out of the backfield. I think he didn't play much. His career is so windy, but I think he can really have some pop to him if they get him going. And like you said, Evans is really good too. So yeah, running back is never a concern with Cobbs and North Texas, but I like that position a lot.
Speaking of the transfers in with the running backs, obviously talk about Trey Bradford, Zach Evans, but who's excites you the most? You got the 2 safeties from Texas, DT Sheffield. If there's a connection there between him and Eric Morris, who excites you the most? The transfers that are coming in.
BJ Allen. I mean, he's a guy that was a former 4-star out of high school, a very high 4-star. And as important as safeties are in this defense, he's a guy that, I mean, I would definitely say he's really high on my list and easily the number one. He's a guy that I was kind of shocked that he didn't have more interest once he got to the portal. But yeah, visited North Texas, locked in. We've had a little trouble battling Texas State with some guys. Texas State offered, but winning that recruiting battle and being able to get him, that I think that's a huge win for this a defense that needs some playmakers.
Yeah, he's because he didn't have a bad injury.
Yeah, I think we looked and neither of them did.
Right.
To
my memory.
Yeah.
That's always the thing that I'm hesitant about with drop downs is the injury bug potentially, but they're both fairly young, and so getting them in I think is a big deal. And also, if nothing else, just take pressure off of the freshmen that played so many snaps this year. It's like, all right, that's great. We can develop them and get them in positions to play a lot, but when you lose as much as North Texas lost this year, it's kind of like you have to go get more high-end talent. You can't just go get depth pieces here. You got to get guys that can compete for a starting job. So that's
And that's
So,
something. I mean, I would say my biggest like concern with this team is obviously defensive line. I don't think they've went out there and done enough, but
mhm.
what they've brought in that defensive back room from the safeties to the cornerbacks, I mean, they've completely rejuvenated, rebuilt that room in two off seasons, and there's some studs on that and then that safety room and all the defensive backs, all five positions on that defense. That's pretty exciting to me, and as important as these safeties are in this defense, um, I'm hoping that those additions and then Javen Anderson and those guys, Evan Jackson from last year, that they're able to you know give this defense the boost they need.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my next question was rebuilding this defense and how you think they've done so far. And I guess for you, it sounds like the defensive line, maybe front seven in general, is an area where they still need some help. Do you think they're going to go get it?
Yeah, I definitely think they've got some guys visiting this week. Um, so a couple Power Five, I guess you want to call fall down guys.
Yeah,
Um, one's a former 4-star. I'm hoping to be able to release that info here pretty soon. But
subscribe to the Patreon. If you
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
already, there you go.
hopefully be able to drop that. He's actually on campus right now. But yeah, I definitely think. I mean, I think that you're going to see at least four more additions before spring: quarterback, offensive line, a wide receiver, and then defensive line. Um, you look at the defensive line. I mean, they are bringing back everybody besides Mason. I
Yeah,
mean, Mason's the one guy that left, so I think naturally they should progress. Another year in the strength and condition, another year in the system. But yeah, I definitely think that defensive line is pretty much top priority right behind quarterback right now.
yeah. I don't know if you agree, Colin, but like on this defense, it feels like it's so much scheme and
Yeah.
technique wise. Like defensive line or maybe front six in general might be like I guess across the entire defense. This scheme is one that you can't really just jump in and be like, all right, well, we got some athletic guys here that can go make plays. Let's just
Yeah.
throw them out there. I feel like you really have to know what you're doing in defenses like this, especially up front where you don't have the numbers a lot of the time. So
Yeah, I'm personally happy that they're just getting the biggest weakness on defense out of the way with really good players transferring in. Obviously, they have to pan out, but I am excited about that.
yeah,
Um, with all this transfer portal talk, obviously, Brittany kind of brought up earlier with G5 schools kind of struggling with the transfer portal. What are your takes on G5s right now in the way the transfer portal is? Obviously, you have if you have a good year like North Texas did this year, you're going to have a lot of your talent poached. Is it kind of just going to be a revolving door to you if nothing changes, or what is your take on that? And then I guess what do you think could change? What would be your ideal way of the transfer portal working?
Yeah, I think until they do some kind of contracts or do some kind of, where the university is able to pay the players directly, and like I said, lock them in with some kind of contracts and requiring, buyouts to get out of it and stuff like that. I think we're always going to see this. Now, I do think, one of my positives for a school like North Texas is without the transfer portal. I mean, 10 years ago, you're not able to get a talent like BJ Allen at North Texas. You're not able to get Trey Bradford. I mean, those are former 4-star guys that North Texas didn't have a zero chance at out of high school. Now you do. So I think, there is negatives to the transfer portal. I don't like guys, being able to, transfer in one season, transfer out, transfer, multiple schools.
yeah,
I do know that when you're 18 years old, maybe you did make the wrong choice. I think that, there definitely needs to be transfers. I definitely think there needs to be some kind of restrictions to the just every year free agency. You see, quarterbacks that's been in college 7 years and played for 5 teams. Like that's ridiculous. Like that's defeating the whole, college football aspect of things. But yeah, like I said, I do think that there is benefits though to the transfer portal. And I think that this North Texas team, we saw, other G5s, we saw Texas State last year, go and grab a Power 5 talent, grab, FCS guys that's played and completely change around their roster. So I think that it's not all negative with the portal. I just think that you have to, you have to have a staff like North Texas, like Texas State, and that it's, doesn't sit there and pout when you lose Chandler Rogers. You're just,
yeah,
out the door trying to find the next guy to replace him.
and
Yeah.
and I do think this year was like first year coaches are all in most cases are going to lose players like regardless. It was just um exacerbated because this year the offense was so good. So then
Yeah.
you lose everybody off it, and then defense was so bad, so you lose everybody off of it. I think you look at UTSA for the most part, the past few years has done a good job not losing transfers. I think there are a good amount of G5 programs. Once you get stability in them, which obviously I expect Morris to get more as he continues his tenure here. But as you get that stability, I do think the portal departures and players that leave ends up shrinking significantly. We're not gonna. I don't think we end up seeing how many players left, 20 something.
Something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think you end up being in that number or close to that number year after year after year if you are, a program like UTSA that's been consistent under Trailer. They lost Trey Moore, they lost a couple guys, but they're not overhauling the entire team, So that's a big thing I think moving forward to keep in mind is this isn't the norm. I do think this is kind of still an outlier.
Yeah, this was like a perfect storm of coaching change. I mean, you had the Seth guys left over.
Yep.
You also had, Eric Morris and them hit lightning in a bottle with Chandler Rogers. There was like I said, you're 100% correct. I don't think this is an every year thing for North Texas. I think there was also some guys, if you look at, that were on the bottom of the roster that went FCS that probably didn't need to be on an FBS roster. So, I mean, it wasn't all like, North Texas' whole team just left to go for greener grass or whatever. So, yeah, I think moving forward, this is not something to expect every year unless there's a coaching change or vice versa.
Bruni brought up an interesting point about UTSA, and we talked about this before on the podcast. Bruni, is UTSA being the only sport, like football, I guess I should say, in San Antonio, they can kind of, the whole city can kind of get around them with Frank Harris, obviously, commercials, whatever. Do you think North Texas is going to be able to do something similar like that here with obviously competing with SMU, TCU? Not only that, if you want to call Cowboys, all of North Texas, the football, I guess there, do you think that they're able to kind of, I guess, throw the Brinks truck and get people to come in and help out like they have in San Antonio?
I mean, I think North Texas, we've talked about it. I think their key is always going to be power numbers. I mean, they're going to have to, but the first thing is they're going to have to find success. I mean, but we've seen with basketball, year after year after year, the more years you can combine with winning seasons, the more people you're going to get on board. It's not going to be an overnight process. I think, like a school like Texas State, who had years and years of losing, but they haven't been playing, FBS football for that long. But a school like North Texas, I think we're going to have to string several winning seasons together. I mean, we kind of saw it a little bit with Seth. They had a couple 9-win seasons, played for conference championship, and I felt like, the momentum was really growing, and then all of a sudden, the Mason fight era ends, and we lose all that momentum. But I think that's for North Texas to be able to find success. It's going to take winning consistently for an extended period of time.
Yeah,
I have it's kind of a direct question, but I think you mentioned how North Texas was able to or was approaching the Chandler Rogers situation where it's like, all right, we'll take care of you on the NIL side, even if we are kind of handcuffed, we're gonna make sure that you're like taken care of. I'm curious. It's like I don't even know if the NIL even helps at the G5 level at this point because even if I think there's situations where I'm sure UTSA was trying to keep Trey Moore, they were able to keep Frank Harris, but it's like the NIL side for North Texas. I don't even think that's it's not a major factor, I don't think at this point. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but does it feel that way? Because I don't know if like the NIL, I think it's more so to keep everybody on the roster happy. I don't know if it's going to be used in cases to like keep one player here over everybody else. I don't know if that makes sense, but it just feels like you're fighting an uphill battle with NIL. So it's like, what are we even doing here?
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct. I think that, and I don't think, I mean, we had Sonoy interviewed the Light the Tower, the group that took it over last week, and they, North Texas is well over $200K as far as NIL money right now, but that's, chump change compared to what Power 5 teams are playing with. So I don't think the goal is ever going to be to go out there and money whip. I mean, I don't think personally the best option was to if you could have kept Chandler Morris, if you gave him the whole 200K, or Chandler Rogers, if you gave him the whole 200K, I don't know if that's the best solution for North
Yeah.
Texas. I think the goal has always been to get that core group of guys and be able to, maintain as much as you can. I think that's it's not really to go out and outbid, Power Fives. It's to keep, as much of your core there as you can and keep them happy and keep them on. Um, until, like I said, until the universities are able to pay, I think North Texas and most G5s are always going to be behind that 8 ball on that. I think once universities are able to kick in, I think North Texas, with their, the size of North Texas, I think they're going to be in a pretty good spot to be able to compete, especially against other G5s. But until then, like I said, I think that, North Texas's best bet is to use that 200,000 and divide it up to, between 8 and 10 players, and make sure you keep your, as many of your all conference guys as you can.
Yeah, I agree.
Shifting a little bit to the high school class. Obviously, we talked about Cash McCollum earlier. You got Jaden Smith. You can go down the list. This is the 6th highest rated class in the American coming into this season. What are your thoughts on this class? And then do you think there's anybody that really sticks out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, me personally, I was kind of hoping we didn't go as strong, as in the high school ranks. I was kind of hoping we leaned a little bit more in the transfer portal. But once you start going through the class, I mean, there's a lot of guys in this class that, like we talked about, 8 to 10 years ago, North Texas probably wouldn't have had a chance to land. I mean, a guy that stands out to me is a Jaden Petway. He was committed to Houston. I mean, 6'2", 200-pound safety. Reminds me a lot of Javen Anderson, but it's like those top guys, before the portal era, they're not coming to North Texas. And that's not, not taking shots at North Texas, but I'm just saying that's a Power 5 level talent. Yeah. And as you go through this, the list of guys, there's several guys there. Tyler Mercer, the guy we flipped from Tulane, that's a talented offensive lineman. I mean, he reminds me of kind of a Gabe Blair type that, you could have easily seen, potentially going to the Power 5. And I think North Texas being able to lock up these guys in the early signing period really helped out, because I think, you look at out of the 27 they signed, there's probably 10 to 15 of those guys. If they had waited till February, there's potential that some Power 5s could have, came in late to try to backfill their classes just to get some numbers. So yeah, I mean, I think there's, going through the list, I mean, Kiefer Sibley, we talked about running backs. I mean, he's a guy that's got probably the most impressive offer list out of high school running backs North Texas has ever signed. Like I said, we can go up and down the list, but Jaden Langley, defensive lineman, was a one-time Arizona commit. In my 8 to 10 years of doing this, I mean, there's been very few defensive linemen North Texas has signed that was one-time committed to a Power 5. So, yeah, a lot to like in this class. And like I said, at first, was kind of like, what are we doing? Taking all these high school kids, because it's kind of, in this era. But then, like I said, there's going through the list, there's very few guys that me personally would have said, don't take them, because there's a lot of talent in that group. And I think, not to speak for them, but I feel like the goal with this staff is to, fill in the voids with transfer guys, but then, to build the culture, get your guys in. We hear about it a lot, but I think that they're kind of putting their money where their mouth is, and, their hope is to, if you bring in 5 wide receivers, to be able to develop a couple of them. And if you lose one to the portal, you got the next guy kind of in line there.
You bring up an interesting point with the transfer portal and it helping high school recruiting, because like you said, 8 years ago, I remember whenever I was, I guess 8 years ago would have been whenever I was going to be a freshman or coming in to be a freshman. Oh, dang, I guess it's 9 now. That's crazy. Anyways, Rico Bussey, it was like, because I remember looking at 24/7, you're looking at the recruits, you're excited to go to this school. You're like, this is going to be amazing. And like, I think Rico was like a high 2-star, low 3-star. And then you had like one other star guy, and then everyone else was unranked. How much do you think the transfer portal has helped G5 schools, and especially North Texas, get maybe guys that would normally go to Power 5 schools, but they're getting replaced by transfer portal guys?
Oh, yeah, a lot. I mean, I think you look at schools like Colorado, you look at schools like SMU, who's going, virtually all transfer portal. I mean, that's 2 schools right there that you take, all their high school offers off the list. So, I mean, that's in a normal year, that's 25, that's 50 kids that could have went Power 5 that are,
Hmm.
technically available. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely helped. I think, and I think the timing of all this is with bowl games and portal and high school recruiting. That I mean, schools that I mean, it's an advantage this year. North Texas not going to a bowl. They had the extra weekend to bring in recruits. They had extra time where other Power Fives and schools that are playing in bowls. Like I mean, they missed the whole early signing period. So I mean, I think that's a big advantage to be able to get these guys locked in and locked because there's too much stuff going on right there, and NCAA's got to work
Oh,
on.
the calendar is such a
It's
mess.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the coaches and stuff because you're trying to recruit your guys, you're trying to recruit, and if you're playing in a bowl, that's a whole nother element. So it's there's got to be some change in there. But with that being said, I think a team like North Texas took advantage of that and was able to lock in some guys that, like we said, if they went on to February, who knows who would have came in late for them.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's just it's good. It's promising. It's exciting to see the amount of talent that they have coming in as freshmen.
Yeah, and
Because go ahead.
position. Oh, I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but position flex. I mean, a lot of guys that tight ends that could move to offensive line, like we saw a couple years ago with Jacob Brammer. I mean, there's a guy that played high school quarterback. Multiple high school quarterbacks are coming in for multiple different positions. So that's something we've seen other schools back in the past have success with. So that's something that excites me is guys with size that are able to play multiple positions.
Yeah. And I've talked about it before, but we harped on keeping, local talent or trying to get as much local talent as possible.
Yeah.
Now with the transfer portal, it feels even more imperative. It's just incredible because Landon Sides, he's staying. Gabe Blair, he's staying. You go down the roster of, there's an incentive I think to trying to keep them there. Not saying it is a full, a safe plan, but it is just you have a lot of Fort Worth talent here. I mean, 93% of the classes in state. It's fun. On3 does the average distance, and it's 150 miles, which is like with all within 2 hours
Yeah.
of Denton. So that's a big deal.
Yep.
All
Yeah, and I
right.
think like you said with the guys that they brought in from high school. I mean, if you look at the guys that transferred out that actually moved up, all those guys were virtually either walk-ons or transfers. I mean, there was no guy that North Texas gave a scholarship to out of high school that hit the portal that technically moved up besides Howard Sampson, and that's the guy that's headed to TCU, but only started 2 games at North Texas. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, we asked which ones were surprising. That I think that was the one that kind of surprised me. A good amount Howard Sampson. That's probably the one for me. All right. That's it. Well, 30 minutes. Well, we talked about chickens for the first 5 of it, so 28 minutes. I don't know. That doesn't really count. Colin, how's your hair doing?
Oh
Real
yeah, let's get a
quick.
hair update real quick.
Get a hair update. Oh, that's doing great.
Yeah,
Looking
it's
good.
the color's back. It's still short enough where you can kind of see the scalp, but
You kind of look like JD.
what'd you say?
I say you kind of look like JD. Grow out the goatee, and
I can't grow out the goatee though.
y'all can be twins.
I'm ready for us to do the mustache thing again. I was really feeling that.
I
My
would.
wife
Hey,
wasn't, but
I'm
I
pretty
was
sure.
into it.
Did I shave mine first, or did you shave yours? Or you didn't
I don't
shave
know. I
yours, did
shaved it pretty quick after the Cal game. I think I shaved it on the way home.
Yeah,
Oh, I think I shaved mine like the day after the Cal game.
Wasn't
and I
Sonoy
was
doing it too?
Was it?
Well, didn't Sonoy do it too?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't.
remember.
Yeah. But the mustache gang really gained a lot of momentum, and then
that it
just
died week 1. It was crazy. It was bad.
brutal. It's up
The
there.
Hey,
Cal
press-
loss.
at the
I was up there
beginning
in
of
the
next
press
season, we
box
can
just
do it.
sitting like this. Like I'm not rocking
Yeah.
a mustache.
God, this is terrible.
The Cal loss made everybody shave their mustache. Morris shaved his too.
Yeah.
Everybody was done with it.
Ride or die, and we all died.
We all died.
Week 1, we
Week
knew
one.
it was the problem. It was the problem.
Yeah, that was the problem. The problem definitely wasn't starting Stone Earl instead of Chandler Rogers. It was the mustache. We fixed
100%.
it.
I'll
though.
take it. I'll take the heat for it. It was our fault.
All right. Thanks, JD, for coming on again. Y'all can check out his Patreon, check out his Twitter. North Texas Eagle does the best job of anybody covering North Texas. And we will continue to reference him on this podcast. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.